In this video, we will use PNPM to replace our usage of Yarn as a package manager for node dependencies, as well as our usage of Volta to manage node versions and which version we're using in any particular project. Now, if you follow my channel really closely, you might say, hey, Kevin, you just did a video about this a few days ago. Why again? Well, I've learned some things in a few days that I want to clear up, and so I'm going to make an updated version of this video with those clarifications integrated in. So first, why am I looking at PNPM? Well, I honestly I've heard about it, of course, in the community, but I've been seeing it more and more referenced in projects that I respect and follow. One of those being Turborepo. I have been loving Turborepo. Being able to have a monorepo with all of my projects or all of my projects for any particular project all integrated into one. Specifically being able to have backends and front ends all living within the same repository. And in the Turborepo documentation, they talk about which package manager do you want to use. And Turborepo supports NPM, PNPM, and Yarn. However, they recommend PNPM. In fact, I've seen this specific line in this doc updated a couple of times, and they pretty much just say PNPM. So yeah, after seeing it here and doing a quick analysis on Google Trends, seeing the popularity of PNPM growing substantially over the past year, I figured it was time to try it out. So why PNPM? Well, it claims that it is up to 2 times faster than the alternatives. And it has built into it the ability to manage which version of Node you are currently using. So in the CLI commands that it offers, you can use it to install and change node versions. So if you're using node 16 in a project versus 18 versus 19, or whichever version you're using of node, PNPM can help you manage that as well. So because it's gaining such community traction, popularity, I wanted to try it out. So let's get going here. First, I want to show you what my current environment is for using Node and what changes we'll make in order to switch over to PNPM. So first, let me do which node. Which is a command that tells you the path that a given executable resolves to. So if I just type in node with -b here to check the version, which node is showing me that node is living in this directory. And this is showing you that I'm using Volta. So Volta is another way to manage versions of Node. NVM is another way to manage versions of Node. But I want to deprecate my usage of Volta and switch over fully to PNPM. Now, if you go to the PNPM documentation, there are several different ways to install this. They have lots of different ways. And in my last video, I used npm to install PNPM. But after using this for a couple of days, this actually created some issues for me because npm is scoped to a given version of Node, blah, 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 PNPM disappeared, blah, 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 blah. If you're on a Mac, I'd now recommend using Homebrew to install PNPM. That way you have a stable executable no matter which version of Node that you can start with using Homebrew. So that's what we're going to switch to here. So let me do a brew install PNPM. So this will use Homebrew to install PNPM. So if I do which PNPM now, we can see that this is running out of my Homebrew. Now, if I do which node, I'm still using Volta for that. So let's switch over our node executable to use PNPM instead of Volta. So I happen to know that there is a PNPM setup command. And what this does is it writes some path variables to your Z shell RC file, or probably your bash RC file, whichever shell you are currently using. So in fact, let me go ahead and open up this file. We can see here my Z shell RC file. At one point I was using NVM. I deprecated that to switch to Volta. Now I'm going to deprecate Volta to switch fully over to PNPM. So we can see that it's adding our PNPM directory to our path, and we have our Volta usage up here. So before I get rid of Volta, actually, no, we could, yeah, let's go ahead and comment this out. I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to create a new terminal. So I'm going to open up a new terminal over here. I think, there we go. And now let's use PNPM to install Node. So under CLI commands in the PNPM docs, you can go to Manage Environments and then PNPM env. This probably sounds like word soup. PNPM env use -- global. It only supports -- global right now. And then you give it a version number. So you can give it a specific number, or you can give it like a keyword or a specially named version like LTS. LTS would be the long-term support version of Node, and this version that is recommended for most production applications. So let's go ahead and use that to install the LTS version of Node, which is installed and activated. It probably downloaded before this video when I was trying it out. So if I go to node v, I can see that it's using 18.12.1. If I say which node, I can see that it is using the node inside of PNPM. Now let's say that I wanted to use node version 19. Then I could use PNPM env use -- global 19 to download, install, and switch to that version. Again, if I do which node here, it's still using the node in PNPM, but it has switched the versions for me to node version 19. So I no longer need Volta. I've commented that out here in my Z shell RC file, and I haven't been using NVM for a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. That's all you have to do to your Z shell RC file. And really all we did was comment the lines out. PNPM setup, that command added what we needed for us. So now that we have PNPM installed, let's use that to bootstrap a Turborepo and make sure that we've got everything set up there, and even specify what version of Node we want to use inside that Turborepo. So I'm going to go to Turborepo, check out the documentation, create a new monorepo, and we can see here how to do that. So npx create turbo at latest is the way to do it. Now let me go ahead and do which npx. Yeah, npx is also going to be an executable managed by PNPM, so that's good. So let's do npx create turbo at latest, and it's going to launch into a little questionnaire for us for what we want to do. So I'm going to say PNPM demo, and then it will ask us which package manager we want to use. So we've got npm, PNPM, or Yarn, which I actually don't have installed right now. So let's choose PNPM. So it will write out our basic project, install the dependencies for us, and then we'll jump in and check out what's different about a PNPM project. Okay, so let me open this up in code, PNPM demo. That'll just open up a new window here. So let's check this out. So if you've been used to Yarn, you're used to a yarn.lock file. But with PNPM, you get this PNPM-lock.yaml file. Very similar, just a a different format and used by PNPM. We also have a PNPM workspace file, which Turborepo created for us. That's great. And then in package.json, this looks pretty much all the same, except we do have a package manager down below. So that's great. So Turborepo has set up all of these dependencies for us. But one of the top things I like to do when creating a new project is making sure I'm documenting exactly what version of Node I want to use. I'm switching between projects on my machine all the time. Some projects are on different versions of Node depending on whether it's LTS or a bleeding edge current version, or maybe an older version if it hasn't been updated in a while. So it's always good to know that you're on the right version of Node when switching back into a project. So there is something I've seen recently which I actually hadn't seen before. Maybe it's existed for a while and I just didn't know about it. But within a project, there are several different ways to document a node version. First, if we look at package.json here, it says engines node. This is more, from what I understand, a kind of a gut check version specification. This is not actually going to switch versions for us. I kind of wish PNPM used this to switch versions for you. It does not. Instead, what you can do is create a .npm.rc file. And inside this file, you can say use -node-version and specify a version of node here. So let's go to, I think LTS is 18.12.1 as of the time of this writing. So let's say use -node-version equals 18.12.1. And what this does is anytime something is run from a script within the package.json or using even npx, I believe, it will use this version of node that we've specified. So in fact, I'm going to pull that out to the side here. So let me add in another script, and I'm going to say, I'm going to call this version, and I'm just going to have this output the node version. So if I do PNPM version, I don't think I have to hit run. Of course, terribly named script named. That's probably a built-in command in PNPM. Let's do check. How about that? PNPM check. There we go. Okay, so that's the name of my script. So PNPM check 18.12.1. Now let me change this to, say, the bleeding edge right now, which is 19.2.0. Now if I run PNPM check again, it will run this script automatically using the node version that I've specified in .npm.rc using 19.2.0. Now what confused me the first time around that I used this was in Volta world, and the other node version manager I was using, Volta, it would actually swap out node here in my path, or it would kind of use this middleman executable to swap out versions of node for me. So when I used this the first time around, I was really confused. Of course, that's not going to. Let me change this. 18.12.1. Let me save this. When I used this the first time around, what was confusing is I checked the node version just here at the command line, and it was not changing with my npm.rc file. That's what I was used to with Volta. PNPM doesn't quite work like that. This use node version specifier only changes what you're running inside of a script, or maybe inside of npx. So not even sure how I would try that out. Can you do npx node? Ooh, that sounds awful. Yeah, that did not work. But if I do PNPM and then run my script here, so my script's name is check, then that will use the proper version. So I hope that makes sense. It doesn't switch out the node version straight up in your command line unless you do the PNPM env use global and then change version here, blah, blah, blah. But it will swap it out for any scripts that you're running to match the .npm rc file. So that is a whirlwind tour of PNPM. How to get it installed in your system. Again, I'd recommend Homebrew for Macs. I would highly recommend when bootstrapping a new project to add this .npmrc file, add this use node version so that it swaps automatically when going between, and then you're set. As you change projects, change directories, PNPM will automatically switch that version for you whenever you're running any of your scripts for your project. So that's PNPM. I think I'm going to use this going forward for my new projects and just get a feel for it, see how much faster it is than Yarn and NPM, as well as just reducing the number of tools that I'm using. Don't use Volta anymore. So I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.